In the current international arena, China's diplomatic strategy has triggered two poles. Transformed view. On one hand, foreigners perceive China's diplomatic tactics as increasingly aggressive, resolute and tough. On the other hand, domestic. The public felt that the diplomatic attitude seemed a bit soft. Let's talk about two big things. An in-depth analysis of the hard bones of China's diplomacy. April 1st, 2001. It was the beginning of a new century, but it's also a sad history. Wang Wei, a brave and fearless pilot, when performing a task, encountered a malicious provocation by a US reconnaissance plane. An untimely death becomes an eternal pain. The incident shocked the whole of China. Many cannot be angry. Take to the streets to express an outcry against American evil. Some also have a copy of Tianying, that he wanted to join the army to avenge Wang Wei. Face this. The Chinese government is not idle. As usual, quickly gave the US a solemn statement. They expressed strong protests and dissatisfaction, and demanded that the US formally apologize and compensate for the losses. But the attitude of the United States has not changed because of this. They're making ridiculous demands, like refueling their EP-3 reconnaissance plane and return safely. This is black and white. The logic is so ridiculous that it makes people laugh and cry. The arrogant attitude of the United States, and subsequent military exercises at the Okinawa base in Japan. She is undoubtedly a sign of provocation and coercion. Facing this situation, you've got to think we can't stand it. Something has to be done. Shows that we are not to be trifled with. Whether it's verbal tough retaliation, or is there another way to respond? We all want the world to see. The dignity and sovereignty of a country cannot be violated. Chinese diplomacy demonstrated a determined and rational attitude, handling international affairs as neither humble nor arrogant. Don't act rashly. Truly achieved while safeguarding national interests, to maintain international peace and stability as much as possible. This is the willfulness and wisdom of Chinese diplomacy. Although the most. At first, it seems that our country has not received an apology from the US. And in the case of compensation, the aircraft and its crew, Enron, was returned to the United States. This move was initially interpreted as a weakness on our part. The reality is very different than imagined. Before sending the plane and personnel back, our country is not afraid of American protests and threats. To different places, the reconnaissance aircraft was thoroughly dismantled and studied. This aircraft was recognized as the world's largest aircraft at that time. The most advanced reconnaissance aircraft. High-end electronic equipment included, and important confidential information, become a valuable asset of our country's technological development, especially radar technology. Let our relevant technology, suddenly, 20 years forward, that 2013 leaked estimate of the losses. And accident review documents revealed more details. We not only acquired advanced electronic equipment on board, also includes a bunch of critical intelligence materials. For example, the internal working records of the US military information of North Korea and Taiwan, etc. They're priceless. Throughout the event processing process, facing repeated protests and military threats from the United States, our country has shown indomitable spirit until the complete completion of the EP-3 after the dismantling of the reconnaissance aircraft. Just return it. The strength and wisdom beneath the surface. Enough to give the other person a headache, but there is nothing we can do. So don't underestimate our country's diplomacy. It's actually more powerful than you think. Take this opportunity to firmly tell the world that we are not soft persimmons. If you have the ability, come and touch it. Speaking of our country's diplomatic prowess, there are two things from the past that you need to know. We used to be alone against the entire Southeast Asia alliance, plus the joint pressure from the United States. It's not an exaggeration to say you're fighting alone. And we won anyway. It's inspirational. Back in the 90s, our country has a grand plan. Construction of the Langkang River port, planning to build hydroelectric power plants and dams. This is not just for the energy supply family. More importantly, by controlling the amount of water, let the Langkang River flow more steadily. Let all neighboring countries benefit from it. But it's good advice for everyone. But it just provoked Southeast Asia. There was a backlash from the neighbors. especially the most senior brothers of the protests in Vietnam and Thailand. They are concerned that the water volume of the Mekong River will be reduced. It affects the daily fishing of local fishermen, even if they have a good relationship with us. Cambodia and Laos, also hesitant. Hopefully we can adjust the plan. As a result, the news reached the ears of the old beauty, and they were thrilled. Immediately jump out and sing the opposite tune. Call for support for people's livelihood in Southeast Asia, even though the minions knew they were just trying to find fault. Don't look at that time. The strength of our country is not as strong as it is now, facing a superpower like America. We didn't back down, one might think, according to some people's logic. Our country should have protested in anger, and there was no end to it. But the facts tell us, our country's diplomacy is not angry. It's over in a sentence or two. Wait until the dust falls. Everyone just found out. Not only was it planned, it went as planned. And we go through this thing. It also shows the tenacity and wisdom of our country's diplomacy. This is all telling the world. Don't look at our national strength at that time. Facing external pressure, we are not weak at all. In the beginning, our country has really taken the conventional route. To those countries in Southeast Asia and the United States, shouted a few words of protest. On the surface, we still seem to be the same. But actually, let's quietly follow the original plan. Start working. Slow curved hair. The motor unit is facing the Langkang River. Exactly when the Slow Bend Tower Station was officially opened in 1993. We don't care about the health outside at all. The next 30 years were pushed up the Langkang River, one hydropower station after another. Those 11 dams are spectacular projects in our country. Despite the best efforts of Southeast Asia and the United States, they want us to stop. But we just didn't hear anything? Let's build a dam, never for private or anything. These 11 dams do have a little impact downstream, but there's so much more, like fighting floods and drought, help the downstream friends get through this difficult time. As for those who say our country's dams will decrease, income, downstream fishermen, it turned out to be a lot of empty talk. After the dam was repaired, the rain output of the Langkang River has increased rather than decreased, from 6,000 tons to 53,930 tons per month. No matter what Southeast Asia screams. How is the old beauty black? We all prove everything with our actions. Our diplomatic strategy. It's never just about protesting and condemning. Not we. Our country's diplomacy has always been strong. It's just that not many people pay attention. When countries don't go to war, that's contentment. Our country has been peaceful for more than 40 years. But he was called a coward? This statement is obviously unscientific. Our bottom line is firm strategy is flexible. Never come from nowhere internationally. When playing for real, that's really tougher than the other. The crash in the South China Sea in 2001. Our country is under heavy pressure from the US. Hold your ground. Dismantled the US EP-3 reconnaissance plane? This operation is called a Handsome. Since the 1990s, although Southeast Asia and the United States are all screaming and littering. But we still went according to our plan. One dam street, one dam and lamb. The Kangjiang River was repaired, solid as a rock. You need to know. The information behind these two major events is the same. Don't look at our country's diplomacy. It's not impatient outside. That stiffness is really not covered. Some people may feel that. We've known about protests for a long time. Condemnation doesn't seem so pleasant. Uncle Game? What you see is that the benefits are really not real. Repeated South China Sea impact incidents. Ostensibly, our country is the old model. Protest. But what about there? Not idle. EP 3 times worse, only parts left. We just topped them? Sharp electronics and intelligence. Here it is. This was the 90s. How poor were we? Forget about chasing? Just looking at the taillights of the old beauty has to be hard. But in the end, you see, it is this appearance that seems fragile. Inside tyrannical strategy. Let's go to the field of electronic technology. Almost exactly 20 years. Our researchers' eyelids fall. See the stitch. Diligence capture. Until we catch up. Later, it's not that America is jealous of our technology. Our 055 area. Nanchang ship goes to sea. can let the USS Lincoln follow around? And that's not just electronics. Radar. We also far exceed the technology of the United States. So it seems hard Chinese diplomacy, it's not just talk. Old America's Customs War in 1991 showed the world an electronic warfare battle. Let the leaders of various countries make a body. This incident is even more of a wake-up call for us. Let our country deeply realize, and their gap in electronic technology, it's already pulled big. However, it officially withstood the diplomatic pressure from the United States. Our country disassembles the EP-3 reconnaissance aircraft, successfully broke through this technical hurdle. The field of electronics has advanced by 20 years. The sweat of generations of Chinese scientists since then transform our country from a chaser to a leader. Now our radar technology. It has left the United States far behind. Take our homemade desalination home. Compared to their deep painter radar, in terms of performance, it is the winner of Yashima Star. The performance of the former is 10 times out of the latter. The outstanding performance of the Type 55 destroyer Nanchang. It also proves the strength of our country's military technology, relying on the combined force of multiple radars, such as Blue Sea Star. This large area can enable the U.S. aircraft carrier battle group. I can only run away. This achievement, let the commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, I had to step down sadly, behind these historical events, reflects the true strength of our country's diplomacy. On the surface, it seems low-key. In fact, there is a mystery. Has been striving for the best interests of the country. This completely subverts what some people think of our country's diplomacy. Weak view. In fact, our country has been quietly flexing its muscles. I just don't like to be too public.